April 3rd, 2026. 7,000 feet above sea level, somewhere in the Zagros Mountains of southwestern Iran. A man is climbing a ridgeline with a shattered body, a 9mm pistol, and an emergency beacon that may or may not be transmitting. 60 seconds ago, he was strapped into the back seat of an F-15E Strike Eagle traveling at 600 miles per hour. Now, he is dangling from the parachute over hostile territory in a country that has placed a $60,000 bounty on his head. He cannot see his pilot. He cannot reach his squadron. He can see headlights crawling along a valley road
All
below,
units,
and he can hear the distant sound of men shouting in Farsi. He is a colonel in the United States Air Force. He has flown combat sorties over Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. He has more hours in the backseat of a Strike Eagle than most pilots accumulate in a career. None of that matters right now. Right now, he is a wounded man on a mountain in Iran with no extraction plan, no cover, and 36 hours of survival ahead of him that will involve armed nomadic tribesmen, an IRGC dragnet, Reaper drones dropping bombs on approaching convoys, and a CIA deception campaign designed to convince an entire country he has already been rescued. The last time America mounted a combat search and rescue this deep inside hostile territory was 1995, when Captain Scott O'Grady hid for 6 days in the forests of Bosnia after his F-16 was shot down by a Serbian missile. Before that, 1980, Operation Eagle Claw, a rescue mission into this exact country that ended with 8 American servicemen dead, helicopters burning in the desert, and the presidency in ruins. Iran still celebrates that failure as a national holiday. Now, the United States is about to attempt something far more dangerous, far deeper inside Iranian territory, with an entire military apparatus hunting the same man they are trying to save. How did a routine air patrol become the most harrowing rescue operation in modern American military history? And what happens when 2 transport planes get stuck on an improvised airstrip 200 miles inside enemy lines, and the only option is to blow them up? 5 weeks before the colonel's parachute opens over the Zagros, the United States and Israel launch a surprise attack on Iran. February 28, 2026. Nearly 900 airstrikes in 12 hours. Missile batteries, air defense networks, command centers, nuclear facilities. In Tehran, an Israeli strike kills Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. He is 86 years old. His death is confirmed by Iranian state media within hours. The regime declares 40 days of mourning. The world declares something else entirely. This is a war. The official justification centers on the Strait of Hormuz, a 21-mile choke point through which 20% of the world's oil supply passes daily. When Iranian-linked projectiles strike 3 commercial vessels on March 11th, the Trump administration issues an ultimatum: open the strait or we dismantle the infrastructure that controls it. Iran does not open the strait. The strikes begin and do not stop. By early April, over 3,500 Iranians are dead, according to international monitors. At least 244 of them are children. 15 American servicemen have been killed, over 500 wounded. And somewhere above southwestern Iran, a 2-seat fighter jet from the 494th Fighter Squadron, the Panthers, based at RAF Lakenheath in England, is about to become the first American crewed aircraft shot down by enemy fire since the war began. The F-15E Strike Eagle is not a delicate machine. It is 81 feet of twin-engine Fury designed to fly at Mach 2.5, drop laser-guided munitions through a window from 40,000 feet, and fight its way out of whatever it just destroyed. It has been in service since 1988 and has never been shot down in combat by enemy fire. Not in Desert Storm, not in Afghanistan, not in Iraq. It costs $100 million. It carries a two-person crew, a pilot in the front seat and a weapons systems officer in the back, the person responsible for targeting, sensor management, and making sure the bombs land where the math says they should. The weapons systems officer is called a WISO. The WISO on this aircraft is a colonel whose name has not been released. What has been released is the sequence of events that turns a Friday morning sortie into a 48-hour survival epic. The missile comes without adequate warning over Kogiluye and Boye Ahmad province, a mountainous region where the Zagros range falls into itself like crumpled paper. The F-15E is hit. The aircraft becomes uncontrollable. The pilot and the colonel reach for the ejection handles. An AC's 2 ejection seat fires with 14 Gs of force. The canopy blows. 2 humans are launched into the sky at a speed that can fracture vertebrae and separate shoulders even when everything works perfectly. Their parachutes deploy. Below them, $100 million of aircraft spirals into the mountainside. The pilot hits the ground, and the rescue system reaches him within hours. HH-60W. Jolly Green helicopters fly low over enemy territory. Fighter jets provide air cover. MQ-9 Reaper drones orbit with Hellfire missiles. A video surfaces online showing an HC-130J Combat King flying at treetop level over the Iranian countryside, so low that farmers in the fields could read the tail number. They reach the pilot, they extract him. He is alive, injured but stable. Then the helicopters start taking fire. Small arms rounds punch through the fuselage of one Jolly Green, wounding several crew members on board. The helicopter absorbs the damage and limps toward friendly airspace. At the same time, an A-10 Warthog providing close air support is struck by Iranian fire near the Strait of Hormuz. The pilot coaxes the dying aircraft to Kuwaiti airspace before ejecting. He is rescued. But now, the Americans have lost 2 aircraft in a single day, and the colonel is still on the mountain, and no one can find him. Every American combat airman goes through SERE school: survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. Instructors strip you of food, lock you in boxes, subject you to simulated torture, and teach you one fundamental truth. Your job is to stay alive and avoid capture until someone comes for you. Someone always comes. The colonel begins to move. He is seriously wounded. The ejection has damaged his body in ways that will not be fully assessed until he reaches a hospital in Kuwait 2 days later. But he is mobile. He climbs. The Zagros here are jagged limestone formations, deeply eroded, cut by rivers over millions of years. The vegetation is sparse: scrub oaks, wild grasses, exposed rock. The colonel climbs a 7,000-foot ridge. He finds a crevice in the rock face, a narrow gap barely wide enough for a man to wedge himself inside. He activates his emergency beacon. He checks his pistol. He waits. By Friday evening, the IRGC knows an American is on their mountain. The wreckage has been located. 2 ejection seats, 1 pilot already rescued. Simple math. A second crew member is still on the ground. Iran's state broadcaster makes the announcement: a reward of 10 billion tomans, approximately $60,000, for the capture of the enemy pilot. In a country where that figure represents more than 10 times the average household income, the number is not a bounty, it is a mobilization order. Videos posted to social media show dozens of Iranian civilians forming search parties, headlamps bobbing through the darkness, moving uphill through terrain they have walked since childhood. The Bakhtiari, nomadic tribesmen indigenous to the Zagros, are among the searchers. They are traditionally armed with rifles. They know every ridge, every goat trail, every water source. They have been navigating these mountains for centuries. The colonel has been navigating them for hours. This is not a fair contest. Above the search parties, IRGC units deploy in vehicles along valley roads, establishing checkpoints, coordinating the hunt. Iranian state media calls on the public to target any Americans they find, then, in the same broadcast, orders citizens not to mistreat the pilot if captured. The regime wants him alive. A captured American colonel would be the most valuable propaganda prize of the entire war, a prisoner to parade on television, a bargaining chip worth more than any missile battery or nuclear centrifuge. By Saturday morning, IRGC forces are within 3 kilometers of the colonel's position, less than 2 miles. The colonel, wedged into his crevice, armed with a pistol that holds 15 rounds against a country of 88 million people, can hear the search parties below. He can see flashlights. He does not move. Stillness is survival. Movement is detection. Detection is capture. Then the Reapers arrive. MQ-9 Reaper drones carrying Hellfire missiles begin orbiting his position. Their cameras lock onto every vehicle, every foot patrol, every cluster of searchers moving up the mountain. And when Iranian convoys approach within a certain radius of the crevice, the drones do not observe. They strike. The New York Times reports that US aircraft dropped bombs on convoys that approached the area. A military source tells a veteran war correspondent he evaded up a 7K ridge. They have been schwacking dudes chasing him all day. Was nuts. While the colonel hides in a crack in a rock, Reaper drones create a perimeter of fire around him, destroying anyone who gets too close. The mountain becomes a kill zone, with the colonel at its center, protected not by walls or armor, but by orbiting machines armed with precision munitions and operators sitting in air-conditioned trailers 7,000 miles away in Nevada. But drones cannot carry a man off a mountain. For that, you need people. And you need a plan so audacious that when Iran's military later describes it, they will compare it to the last time America tried something this ambitious in their country. And that time, it ended in catastrophe. Here is what the CIA does while the Reapers hold the perimeter. The agency launches a deception campaign inside Iran. Through channels that remain classified, operatives spread false intelligence that the colonel has already been found, that American ground forces have him, that he is being driven overland toward the border.
The goal is to make IRGC commanders second-guess whether the mountain operation is still necessary. A senior administration official will later call it the ultimate needle in a haystack. But in this case, it was a brave American soul inside a mountain crevice, invisible but for CIA's capabilities. The coordinates are transmitted to the Pentagon and the White House simultaneously. The president orders immediate extraction. At an abandoned airstrip in southern Esfahan province, roughly 200 miles inside Iranian territory, multiple MC-130J Commando 2 transport aircraft land in the darkness. Each costs approximately $100 million. They are designed for low-altitude penetration of hostile airspace, capable of landing on unprepared surfaces in zero visibility. The airstrip is near Isfahan, a city housing Iranian missile bases, nuclear facilities, and the airbase home to Iran's surviving F-14 fighter jets. Landing American aircraft here is like parking a getaway car in a police station lot. SEAL Team 6 commandos deploy from the MC-130Js. MH-6 and AH-6 Little Bird helicopters, flown by the Army's 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers, ferry operators toward the mountain. The Night Stalkers' operational history includes Mogadishu, Tora Bora, the Bin Laden raid in Abbottabad. Tonight, they are flying into the Zagros Mountains of Iran to extract one man from a crack in a rock while an army hunts for him. The rescue force reaches the colonel. The extraction is not clean. Air Force Special Warfare personnel engage Iranian forces near the site. The Air Force Special Warfare recruiting account will later describe it plainly. Special operators willingly put their lives on the line, engaged in a massive firefight at the extraction site, and fought with all they had so that others may live. A massive firefight, on Iranian soil, 200 miles inside the country, at night, on a mountain, for one man. Reaper drones and manned aircraft continue striking IRGC vehicles attempting to drive up the mountain. The sky above the Zagros becomes a layered architecture of violence. Fighters at high altitude, tankers refueling them, Reapers at medium altitude striking ground targets. little birds at low altitude ferrying operators, and at the center, a colonel with a pistol and a shattered body who has not eaten, barely slept, and has been hiding in a rock for 36 hours. They get him out. Then the operation encounters the one enemy technology cannot defeat: the terrain. Two MC-130JS on the improvised airstrip cannot take off. The aircraft, each weighing over 75,000 pounds empty, have become stuck. The surface that supported their landing cannot support their departure. If American Special Operations Forces are stranded at an airstrip 200 miles inside Iran, the IRGC will eventually find them. Captured commandos, captured SEALs, captured transport aircraft full of classified equipment. The decision is instantaneous: destroy everything. US forces rig the two MC-130JS with explosives and detonate them. $200 million in aircraft gone. 4 MH-6 Little Bird helicopters are destroyed on the ground alongside them. 3 replacement aircraft are dispatched. They land, load, and depart. 7 hours after the mission began, the colonel is airborne and heading toward Kuwait. Not a single American is killed. Iran reports 3 IRGC members dead. At 12:08 a.m. on April 5th, President Trump posts 2 words on Truth Social: "We got him." He describes the colonel as a highly respected officer who was behind enemy lines in the treacherous mountains of Iran, being hunted down by our enemies who are getting closer and closer by the hour. He reveals that Friday's rescue of the pilot was never publicly confirmed while it was happening. The Pentagon went silent. The White House said nothing, because confirming one rescue would have told the Iranians with certainty that a second crew member was still unaccounted for. Every hour of silence bought the colonel another hour of anonymity on his mountain. Trump calls it an Easter miracle. He says the Iranians thought they had him, but it was not even close. That last line is debatable. The IRGC was within 3 kilometers. Armed tribesmen who have walked these mountains for generations were converging from multiple directions. The $60,000 bounty had mobilized an entire province. It was close. It was as close as it gets without becoming a headline of a very different kind. Iran's military spokesman delivers the regime's version. He compares the operation to Eagle Claw, the 1980 disaster. The comparison is understandable. Both operations left American wreckage on Iranian soil, but Eagle Claw killed 8 Americans and rescued no one. This operation killed 0 Americans and brought home every person it was sent to retrieve. The comparison is not a compliment. It is a confession. Iran knows what just happened. The operation will be studied at war colleges for decades. It will be compared to O'Grady in Bosnia, to Bat 21 in Vietnam, to every combat rescue that pushed the boundary of what was considered possible. Iran will call it a failure and point to the banned aircraft. America will call it a triumph and point to the living colonel.
Tremendous victory.
Both are telling the truth about different parts of the same story. But underneath the celebration, there is a fact the victory is designed to obscure. 5 weeks into a war that was supposed to deliver air superiority within days, Iran can still reach into the sky and pull an F-15E Strike Eagle to the ground. 15 Americans are dead, over 500 are wounded, over 3,500 Iranians have been killed. The Strait of Hormuz is still contested, the region is still burning, and in the middle of all of it, the machinery of war produced a moment of extraordinary human courage that exists independently of the politics that created it. A colonel did not choose the war, he flew the mission he was assigned. When the sky exploded around him, he did what his training demanded. He ejected, he survived, he climbed, he hid, and he waited. The people who came for him did not debate the policy, they executed the rescue. One man, alone on a mountain, with a pistol and a promise. We will never leave an American warfighter behind. For 36 hours, the most powerful military in human history bent itself around a single grid coordinate and said, "Not this one, not today."